Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Judith Patterson. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Texas, and today I'll be showing you a card from the catalog. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you probably know I typically, in the past, have done these card from the catalog videos on Fridays, but going forward, for a little while at least, I'm going to move them to Tuesday mornings, and on Friday evenings, I'll be posting my Facebook live video that I do on Thursday evenings. So hopefully that's pretty clear as to what I'm doing. I just needed to free up a little bit of time to be able to spend with my family. So if you've been watching these videos, then you know I love finding inspiration in Stampin' Up's catalogs, brochures, and online. They're just full of amazing cards and projects, and I love taking those, and sometimes I recreate them exactly like they are in the catalog, and sometimes I change them a little, sometimes I change them a lot. So today I am doing a card from the 2021 to 2022 annual catalog. This one only has a couple of months left, so I want to make sure I get some more of these cards in real quick. So this card, I'm actually doing two today. I wanted to do a couple of quick cards that you could recreate at home and use up some of your DSP and use some of those stamps that you have, so that I just want to give you options of ways that you can use your stamps and your designer series paper. I know in the past, personally, I have bought designer series paper and then been so afraid to use it because it's so pretty and I didn't want to mess it up, or I don't know what my hang up was, but I was just so afraid to use it, so I would end up with shelves of designer series paper. So I'm trying to not do that anymore and use up all my designer series paper so that I have room to buy more. So the card I'm doing, or the cards I'm doing, can be found on page 112 of the 2021 to 2022 annual catalog. So there's several options on here, and let me tell you, these are all great. I love these cards, and this one, I really love this one, but I'm not doing this today. I think it probably will come in the future. But for now, I'm doing these two. Only, I don't have the stamp set. So, I will be changing things. I do have this designer series paper. But this is the Sweet Symmetry designer series paper. I'm not going to be using it. I love it. It's gorgeous. But it's not what I decided to use. Instead, I'm using the Pansy Petals DSP. And instead of using the In Symmetry stamp set, because like I said, I don't have the stamp set. So that wasn't even an option for me today when I decided to do this. So instead, I'm using Dragonfly Garden, and I'm using Sweet as a Peach again. These sentiments are just too good. So I'm going to be using the Happy Birthday and the Thanks So Much out of Sweet as a Peach, but of course you can use whatever sentiment you have. Okay. So, let me turn my camera around and let's start crafting. So, I'm going to start with this one right here. So, instead of using this, I'll be using this piece, like I said, from the Pansy Petals designer series paper, and I have cut it 5 1/4 inches by 3 inches. So, I'm just going to go ahead. Let's go ahead and just stick this one on. Let's get it done. I'm using my handy multi-purpose liquid glue. Love that stuff. I like that it gives me just a second to straighten up my DSP. There we go. So now I'm going to do my stamping. This is such simple stamping, y'all. It's so easy. So I've got my Dragonfly Garden, or my Dragonfly from my Dragonfly Garden stamp set. And I am using the one with the solid body, but you could use the other one that you color. That's fine. Either way, whichever one you prefer. They're the same size, so they're pretty interchangeable. You want to make sure you don't rock your stamp. Okay, so I'm going to use that same ink. And I'm going to grab the Happy Birthday stamp from the Sweet as a Peach stamp set. And this piece of cardstock, it's just a scrap. This direction, it does measure 2.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is stamp towards the bottom. I can't see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to stamp towards the bottom of that. Hopefully I'm straight. We'll see. Sometimes I get these stamps a little crooked. So that is very straight, but it's also way close to the bottom, which is okay, but not what I wanted. So I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to try to see it a little bit better this time. I'm making sure my head is not getting in the camera. Hopefully. There we go. So that's a little bit better. I've got it straight, but I've also got it up so that it's not right on the bottom. So what I'm going to do now is grab my paper trimmer and I'm going to go ahead and cut this at 1/2 inch. There we go. So now I have a nice straight centered sentiment. And I'm going to take my paper snips and I'm going to trim it just like that. Well, I'm going to do it like this. So just at an angle, and then that's ready to go. Okay. So now I'm going to take my blends, and I am going to go ahead and color the body of this dragonfly with my dark Fresh Freesia blend. You don't have to. It's totally up to you if you want to skip this step or not. I just like giving it a little hint of this pretty purple. And it just takes a second. These are really quick cards. There we go. Just a hint of that. And then I'm using the light Fresh Freesia blend to color the wings. But I'm also going to go over the wings with my Wink of Stella. That is an optional step. I just think that all of the wings need to have Wink of Stella. I like having the subtle shimmer that adds, and so I typically always use it on butterfly wings, bee wings, dragonfly wings, but dragonflies especially because their wings are so iridescent. I feel like they need that extra little bit of sparkle. There we go. Remember, when you store your Wink of Stella, once you open it, to keep them, you want to keep your Wink of Stella stored vertically to where the tip is at the top. To get the glitter into the tip of the pen, into the brush, you need to squeeze it lightly, but don't squeeze too much at once because you don't want to end up with a big blob of liquidy glitter. When I first started using my Wink of Stella, I always used it with my silicone craft sheet, just because I could squeeze it onto the craft sheet, and if I did get too much, I could dip the brush tip into the blob that was on my craft sheet. And I didn't have to worry about wasting anything or messing up my project by blobbing ink on it. So if you're just getting started using it, you might want to try that. So typically I would say give that just a minute to dry. It doesn't take long, but it does take a little bit. But I'm just going to hold mine up and add a little bit of liquid glue to the back. And then I'm just going to go ahead and place it on the front of my card. I'm going to grab a small bit of tear and tape. Actually, I grabbed too much. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of tear and tape to put on the center of the back of that sentiment. And then I have a 6-inch piece of the Bumblebee gingham ribbon that's going to go behind this. So what I'm going to do is take my paper snips and just angle this ribbon, the ends, just a little bit. And then I'm going to fold the ribbon in thirds. Just like that. And so now, let's see. I'm going to angle this. I want more to come off the bottom than the top, so I'm going to angle it just like so. Okay, just like so. And then I'm going to take my dimensionals and I'm going to go ahead and use 3. Just because I want to have one going across the center of that ribbon, make sure it's holding it in place real good. That way it's got adhesive on both sides of it. Place that on there, and now the only thing left to do is add some bling and then finish up the inside. So of course I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool. And I decided to use these elegant faceted gems. I don't use these very often, but they are perfect with the dragonflies, in my opinion. So I'm just going to place 3 on here. And I'm using this champagne color. And that's the front of our card. I just realized you couldn't see the whole thing. Sorry about that. So for the inside, I had a scrap of this pretty DSP left. So I thought I would go ahead and, oh, look at that. I thought it was going to be too long, but it fits perfectly. So I'm just going to add this to the edge of the card. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on this edge, and I'm going to bring it in just a little bit. So a little bit of that white is showing. Just a small little strip of it. Then I'll put my liquid glue on the back. And place this inside the card. All right, so there's our first card. Now for the second card, the one in the catalog is another vertical card. I have decided to change this one all up. So I turned it horizontal. I'm going to use this sheet of designer series paper, which is cut 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. This one is 4 inches left to right, and then up and down it's 3 1/2 inches. And then I'm going to be stamping on this piece, and this piece is this piece is 2 1/4 inches by 5 3/8 of an inch. So I popped my little sneaky ruler up there. I don't know why I call it a sneaky ruler. It's not sneaky. It's just a ruler. But I popped my ruler up in the top left-hand corner so that you can see where those measurements fall on your ruler. Because I know sometimes the smaller measurements can be difficult. Okay, so 5 3/8 by 2 1/4. Then I'm going to start with that same stamp I used earlier. So the dragonfly, I'm going to put the lid on my glue real quick. The dragonfly with the solid body. And it's just going to go right here in the center. Then I'm going to turn my cardstock just because that's easier for me. And I'm inking up the other dragonfly. And I'm going to stamp it twice, one on each side. Okay, and then I'm going to use those Fresh Freesia blends again to go ahead and color that in just a second. I just remembered we also need to stamp our sentiment here. So I'm using still the Tuxedo Black Memento ink. And this piece is 3 inches wide this way. So I'm doing just like I did before. And I'm going to stamp the thanks so much. Just centering that up. And then I'm going to use my paper trimmer to trim that down to 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to use my Banner's Pick-a-Punch to punch the ends. So I always have to check. I want this end this time. So I'm going to put my finger on it so I know it's the one closest to me when I flip it upside down. I think I actually cut it just a smidge wider than 1/2 inch, but that's okay. Just make sure you've got it centered up underneath before you punch. Okay, so our pieces are almost ready. We just need to color our dragonflies, and then I'm going to add Wink of Stella just to the center dragonfly. So I'm doing like I did previously, and I'm going to go ahead and add a touch of this dark Fresh Freesia. Okay. You can use whichever tip you prefer. Our Stampin' Blends come with a finer point end and a brush tip. So I use whatever I'm feeling in the moment. Typically when I'm doing smaller areas like the bodies of these dragonflies, then I like to use the tip, the fine tip end. But when I'm coloring larger areas, I like to use the brush tip end. Typically. That can change. So this is the light. Okay, so now, what did I do with my Wink of Stella? There it is. I'll put it back where it belongs. So I'm just adding Wink of Stella to the center dragonfly, but of course you can add as much Wink of Stella as you want. I'm going pretty light. You could do all 3. I just, for this card, decided to make this one dragonfly stand out a little bit more. Okay, and again, actually, I'm going to set that aside because we need to put the rest of this on. So I'm just using my handy liquid glue. There we go. Then I'm going to center this piece on top of that one. And I'm going to give my I'm going to give my Wink of Stella time to dry completely before I start messing with that piece. So while that's drying, I'm going to take a couple of pieces of white baker's twine, and I'm going to tie a double bow. So this is 2 pieces. They each measure 9 inches long. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to make it just a little tighter. Sides look fairly even. Alright, so now I'm going to grab that white piece. I want to make sure the top is the top. And I'm going to add liquid glue just to the part that's going to be over the center designer series paper, the top one that's a little smaller. That'll be enough to stick it there, but the ends won't be stuck down. That way, the design or the cardstock won't be bent down. Sometimes whenever you glue things flat over several layers, you get this weird flattened aspect to your cardstock, or at least I think you do. I might be overly picky. I don't know, but I find if I just glue the center part, the ends lay a lot nicer, at least to me. Okay, so now I'm going to use my dimensionals again on this sentiment. You could probably get away with just using 2 here, but if you watch my videos, you know I like using lots of dimensionals. I'm just going to stick this right about there. Then I'm going to use a piece, not a piece, I'm going to use a glue dot. So I'm going to grab a glue dot off of here and put my bow on it. So I'm putting that just behind the knot. And then I'm going to tuck this up underneath the end of my sentiment banner. Ooh, don't want to mush that down too much. Okay, so now I'm going to grab those gems again. And I'm going to use the white ones this time. Well, I think I need to change the tip of this again soon. Where do I want this last gem? I think I'm gonna put it right here. There we go. So there's the front of that card. And then for the inside, again, I just had a scrap left over. And you know, I don't like to throw away any of my designer series paper if I can help it. That's why I like that, the card that looks like a bookmark right here. Let's go ahead and get that off. There we go. So that's why I like this one so much, is because it's just using lots of scraps of designer series paper. So definitely going to keep that one in mind and use it at some point. Okay, so for this one, I've put it right up against the edge. You do you, though. You can do it, put it wherever you want, or leave it off completely and stamp another dragonfly inside. I just always like to have something inside my cards, almost always. There we go. So that gives us 2 gorgeous cards with the Pansy Petals Designer Series paper and the Dragonfly Garden stamp set. I hope you like these as much as I do. This fresh freesia and the evening evergreen, and the soft succulent, the polished pink, and the bumblebee. These are all they're all in colors. So, and they'll all be around another year except for the bumblebee. The bumblebee will be retiring at the end of April. I was going to say the end of May, but it's actually the end of April. So if you like this ribbon, my suggestion would be to order it sooner rather than later, because things will start selling out pretty quickly once the new catalog is on its way, so it won't be long. And when you do place an order, I would love it if you order from me. If you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I will have my links in the description. And if you're placing an order under $150, then go ahead and use my current host code. I would appreciate that so much. And of course, you will get a little small thank you gift from me. So I hope that you enjoyed these cards. I hope that you have a wonderful week, and happy stamping!